Let's talk about the silent treatment from narcissists in relationships. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, and I've worked with people who are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorders, as well as victims of narcissistic abuse over the years. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the silent treatment. And I think there's many different forms of silent treatment when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. And some of the time you might not even realize that it's actually even happening. I mean, I think a lot of us are all very familiar with stonewalling, which is kind of where you get that silent treatment during arguments, and then you get, that cutoff when you guys end up breaking up. But I think there's also other forms of silent treatment too, even when you're just trying to have a basic conversation about challenges, problems, or just things that are occurring within the relationship, or just even everyday conversation. And one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of narcissists is that they just tune you out. And a lot of them actually have, TVs, especially big TVs or TVs in every room. And so a lot of times, even when you're just talking to them, trying to have a normal conversation, to show that that level of power, or to assert their dominance within the relationship, or to just make you feel insignificant and small, they will zone in on that or something else and pretend as though they don't hear you. They tend to not engage, or you may ask a question and they don't get back to you in terms of a response right away, or they're not just interested in engaging with you, being curious about you and how to progress the relationship forward. For the most part, until you're ready to walk out the door, that's when you see, almost like this complete and total disrespect, where suddenly they can pull things together. Suddenly they can talk about problems. Suddenly they give lip service about wanting to go to therapy. But there's all different forms of silent treatment and stonewalling, where, it could happen on a micro level, just even in basic conversation, where they don't respond to a question, they don't respond to a concern, even without the conflict. And I think even with the silent treatment is definitely a form of emotional abuse, and it's actually it's a sign of emotional immaturity, where they can go, without talking to you for hours, for days, because they're trying to teach you a lesson. They're trying to show you who's in charge. They're trying to get you to bend to their will, or even trying to get you to forget about whatever the issue is altogether and come back on their own accord. And so, it's definitely a sign of emotional immaturity. And I think it's also a sign, too, of how cruel, is what I want to say, how cruel someone can be. And if you experience this, even on a small level, where people are not responsive to you, and for a fact that they've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or they have those traits, my advice would be, if you can sort of get out of that relationship, I would heavily consider doing that, because silent treatment, stonewalling, is just really the tip of the iceberg. Again, for me, one of the things that I always educate my clients on is, when you're kind of going through things with your partner, what is the emotional state that they're comfortable leaving you in? Are they comfortable leaving you in a state of confusion? Are they comfortable sort of walking away and leaving you in a state of frustration, a state of anger, or even a state of sadness and full of tears, because they're just not responding to your needs? And is this consistent where this is like your partner is very comfortable and they don't care emotionally how you feel, or emotionally that your needs are not met? They're not comfortable Um, they're not invested in making you feel comfortable or secure in the relationship. I think that tells you everything that you need to know. And if someone is okay with you being uncomfortable, upset, frustrated, confused, and could leave you in that sort of emotional state for hours, for days, maybe even months, you really want to look at that and say, how can I build a future with someone like that? Why would I want to build a future with someone like that who is very insensitive to my needs or the needs of the relationship, even, or even if you have children, the needs of the family? And I think, again, going back to other types of silent treatment is, when you have people, especially if they're a father or even if they're just your partner, where they could disappear without notice for hours, days on end. They could just sort of walk out, not respond to your text, not let you know where you're going, where they're going, or when you can expect them back, or how you could reach them. I've even worked with people over the years whose partners have skipped out on them when they are going through cancer treatments. Even people whose partners have intentionally missed the birth of their children, or when their own children were in the hospital, their partners were okay and they disappeared that whole time only to magically reappear later. So the silent treatment and the disappearance, that abandonment, whether it's verbal or physical, can show up in so many ways and is definitely psychologically harmful.